Buenas tardes, estudiantes. ¿Cómo están? Welcome to a new lesson. This one is going to be on subject pronouns, subtitled New Lesson, Who Dis? Remember that if you are one of my students from my class, I definitely want you guys to be taking notes on this. And if you are just wandering in here off of the internet, that's fine. You don't have to take any notes, but it might be a good idea anyway. If we were actually in a classroom, one of the first questions I would ask you guys, since this is titled Subject Pronouns, I would ask, what is a subject? And if we're talking about the grammar point, the subject, it's the person who, or place or thing, that is doing the action in a sentence. For example, if I wrote the sentence, Bob eats pie. Alright, the person who's doing the action is Bob. The action being done is eating, and then pie is going to be the direct object of that sentence. If I were to say St. Louis is in Missouri, St. Louis would be the subject. Is the verb, alright, it is being, and then in Missouri is telling us the rest of the information we need to know about St. Louis. So when I talk about subject, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the person, place, or thing doing the action in that sentence. If we move on to the next word here, pronouns. A pronoun is a word in a language that replaces a noun. So if we're talking about subject pronouns in a sentence, we're talking about the words that we put in there to talk about the person, place, or thing that's doing the action. Before we get too deep into this, we need to talk about a couple other things, like person. Once again, I'm talking about the grammar idea of person. And if we think back to like first, second, third grade, when we were talking about reading books and learning about reading and all that meta information that goes into reading, we talk about first person and we talk about third person. Alright, if a book is written in the first person, that's from my point of view. And if a book is written in the third person, that's an outsider looking in. In talking about first person and third person stories, we have skipped second person. And the reason most people have never really heard of second person is because second person, there are no stories that are written in the second person. The second person is the person being addressed. And so if we are having a conversation and I'm talking to you, you are the person being addressed. So when we talk about works of fiction or works of nonfiction that are written in first person, the pronouns we see in first person stories are I, if it's me doing something by myself, or we, if there's someone else there with me. When you have a story written in the third person, you see a lot of he, you see a lot of she, you see a lot of they, or you will see a person's name. And once again, in second person, stories aren't written in second person. Fiction is not written in second person. This subject pronouns that you're going to see there is you, which is also you and it's plural, but I like to put either you all or y'all, and we'll get into that in just a second. Alright, so if you're in my class, this is a chart that you're going to see an awful lot this school year. If you are finding my videos helpful and you're coming back to my videos because you found them on the internet, awesome, that's great. You'll probably be seeing this a lot as well. But at any rate, what we've got going on here is this chart just kind of divides up the different persons in a language. So this would be first person. This would be second person, and this down here would be third person. And you'll see for today's lesson that third person is considerably larger than the other ones, and that's definitely for a reason. Normally up here at the top you would see a verb and any information that's pertinent to that verb. But today we're just talking about subject pronouns, so I'm just going to write subject pronouns. And once again, these are the parts of the sentence that tell you who is doing the action. Alright, so we got first, second, and third person here. We've got singular on the left-hand side, and we've got plural on the right-hand side. And I'm just going to go in there and put the English version of what we're talking about here. So I have I in the first box, because remember, first person, if it's singular, it's I. It's from my point of view. Over here on the plural side, I'm going to make this kind of small. We got we right there. Second person singular, remember that's the person who's being addressed. That's going to be you. And I'm going to go ahead and put down here informal, and we'll talk about why in a couple seconds. And then over here I'm going to put y'all, and then I'm going to put a star over here in the corner as well, and we'll talk about why in a couple of minutes as well. Over here on the left hand side in the singular in the third person, I'm going to put he, and I'm going to put she. We're not going to put a person's name in there because obviously it could be anyone's name on the planet, but that's just something that you'll have to kind of figure out in the future. Alright, when it's talking about Jimmy, is it talking to Jimmy or is it talking about Jimmy? But at any rate, down here we're also going to have you formal. And then over here on the plural side, we're going to put they, and we're going to put you all. Alright, and then I want you guys to notice that y'all and you all are in different places, and that's for a reason as well. Alright, so here on the singular side, if the subject pronoun is I, the Spanish version of that is yo. If the subject pronoun we're talking about is you informal, it's going to be tú. Make sure you've got the accent over the you. For he, we're going to put él. And once again, make sure you get that accent over the e. And for she, we're going to put ella. I'm going to skip this you formal, and I'm going to come over here and talk about we for a second. There's going to be two different versions of we, and there's going to be two different versions of y'all. If I am a male, and I am surrounded by a group of males, and we want to talk about ourselves collectively, we're going to talk about that collective group of males as nosotros. However, if I were a female and I were in a group of all females and we wanted to refer to ourselves collectively, since we're all females, just like we talked about with the whole gender and agreement thing, we would have to make that feminine, alright, to reflect the fact that all of these are females. So if it is all males, it's going to be nosotros. If it's all females, it's going to be nosotras. And I think we talked about previously in one of the other lessons that anytime you have a mixed group, it's going to go to the masculine side. Alright, this y'all one is going to look almost identical to the nosotros and nosotras, except it's going to be with a V in the front. So vosotros, if you are referring to a group of all males. Vosotras, if you are referring to and addressing a group of all females. And once again, if it is a mixed group, we're going back to that masculine side of things. And then for the they form, we're going to do the same thing here. If it's all males, it's going to be ellos. If it's all females, it's going to be ellas. If it's a mixed group, it's going to go back to the masculine. Forgot to address the star right here. The reason we put this star up here is because this one right here is only used in Spain. Alright, and so if y'all, the vosotros and vosotras form, is only used in Spain, what are they going to use in the rest of the Spanish-speaking world? And that's going to be this you all thing down here. I'm going to take that space right here and fill it in with ustedes. However, most of the time when you see this, it's going to be UDS. Alright, and so let's come back over here on the left-hand side and fill in this U formal part. Alright, so U informal. If I'm talking to my family, if I'm talking to my friends, if I'm talking to my coworkers, I'm going to use this to form to talk to those people. Alright, that's the informal version. That's just me having a conversation with someone who's a friend, someone who's an acquaintance. However, in many Spanish-speaking countries, if you are addressing someone who you've never met before, or if you are addressing someone who is in a higher social state or higher social position than you are, you're going to use this you formal thing, which is going to be just like ustedes over here, except it's just going to be usted, the singular. Alright, and once again, most people will not write out usted as the whole word, but they will give this abbreviation of UD. If we're ever reading a story in class and you come across UD in a piece of dialogue, or if you're going to read it aloud, don't say ud, say usted. Alright, so once again, the subject pronouns, to talk about who is doing the action in a sentence. Once again, we talked about first person, second person, and third person, and we have the singular side and the plural side. So once again, I is yo, you is tú, and don't forget the accent over the u. He is going to be él with an accent over the i. She is going to be ella. You formal, remember once again, that is someone who is a higher social status than you are, or someone you've never met before. It's just a formal way of speaking to someone. It's going to be usted. Over here on the plural side, we got nosotros and nosotras for we. We've got vosotros and vosotras for y'all. Once again, that is only used in Spain. And then finally down here, we have they as being ellos or ellas, and then you all being ustedes. Alright, that's going to conclude this lesson. It's a pretty short one about the subject pronouns, who's doing the action in a sentence. Please join me again for the next one.